All right, welcome to episode number 50 of the Monetize Your Ministry podcast. I'm so glad that you've joined me this evening. If you're watching this live, thank you for coming on live. Thank you for celebrating with me this first step, this first milestone in the podcast. And for those who are watching, maybe you're watching or listening on a replay, so glad that you're here as well. And if you're here and you're live, do me a favor and just drop it in the chat. Let me know where you're watching this from. Let me know that you're here so that I can shout you out. Hey, Candace, so good to have you on this evening for the 50th episode of the podcast. Anyone else, if you're on as well, just drop it in the chat. Let me know that you're here. And for those of you who are here, we also encourage you to share this episode. If you're watching it live, share the episode so that someone else can get the inspiration that we're going to talk about today and any tools that we're passing along, and maybe even ask some questions. So glad that you're all on this evening. Those who are watching or listening to the replay, this is being recorded on Friday, May the 3rd. We're already in May, right? This year seems to be going by so quickly, but glad that folks are on here. I don't know who this is. Someone says, I'm here. All right. So listen, this is episode number 50, and I put out a post this week saying celebrating the big 5-0, and my feelings were hurt. And I'll tell you why my feelings were hurt, because a lot of people assume that my birthday, I was turning 50, and I'm not turning 50 at my next birthday. So y'all slow down, right? I'm not trying to rush this and get to 50 quicker than I'm already getting there. I need to slow that down. Y'all slow that down. But it also shows the experiment that people don't always read stuff when you put it out there. So listen, I appreciate the birthday greetings. My birthday is in March, right? And so thank you for a very early birthday greeting. And trust me, if you said happy birthday, that was on me. I really kind of put it that way to kind of test people out and to get your attention. So the big 5-0 is the 50th episode of the podcast. I'm doing something special because it's episode 50. We're doing it live, and we're also doing it on Facebook and Instagram. So if you're watching on Facebook, put it in the chat. Let me know that you're watching. But also, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, because YouTube is where all of our new episodes come out. All of our video episodes come out on YouTube. And also, if you're a podcast listener, it's on any podcasting platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Play, all of that stuff. It's all there. So check it out, the podcast episodes. And we have 49 episodes. If this is your first one, make sure you go back and check them out. All right. I want to talk to you about episode 50 and the topic that, based on the questions and the feedback that you all sent, the topic that we're doing today is how to go from 50 to 100, how to go to 50 from 50 to 100. And I really like that topic because I think it can go a few ways, and we're going to actually use all of the ways that I can see that we can use this topic to share some stuff with you. So this podcast, for those who are new, is really about helping people who are ministry driven. And ministry for us is you seeking to serve others and make a difference in the lives of others. So you're ministry driven. If you are doing anything, it's not just for the profits, it's not just for likes and clicks. You're really about helping others. My mom is on. Good to see you on, mommy. So you're not just in it for money, you're in it to help and to serve people. And so what we are saying here is, if you have a heart for service, how you serve others best is your ministry. And we believe in this podcast that that's the way that you should build your business or build a stream of income. Because once you're doing more of that, more people get helped, more impact takes place, more lives are changed. And over, I'm getting a chance to hear stories of people how they serve others best through helping people manage their finances. Once they've created a stream of income from it, they're able to give more time and more energy, even get sharper with it. People who are able to help folks with their health, they're doing more of it because they've developed a stream of income. And don't think that if you've developed a stream of income, you'll use your heart to serve. That's not what this is all about. And so I want to jump into today's episode and just start off by saying, why did I call it How to Go from 50 to 100? So here's a little confession. This is my third podcast, right? Third solo podcast. I've done a podcast also for other organizations and stuff. And 50 is a milestone number for me. 50 is a big number for me. The first time I did a podcast, I think I got up to 30 something, right? So kind of stopped after a while. And then the second time I did it, I did get to 70. But those 70 episodes probably were recorded over the course of 2 to 3 years. So I wasn't consistent. In fact, this is the term I want to put. I was consistently inconsistent in my past podcasting experience. Consistently inconsistent. And maybe you can relate that you are sometimes with whatever it is that you're doing, you're consistently inconsistent. You start something and then you kind of tail off. You start one thing and then you don't complete it. You start something and in the middle of it, you say this doesn't work and you just leave that and you start something else. Then you say that doesn't work and you leave that alone and you go start something else. If anyone can relate to me, put a yes in the chat because I want to make sure I'm not the only one who struggles with inconsistency, struggles with starting and stopping, struggles with not always seeing things through, right? Like just be honest, right? Like I don't want to feel like I'm the only one who has an issue with consistency and seeing things all the way through. All right, let me see because it looks like I got some company here. Yep, someone says guilty, right? Dwight says yes. Candace says guilty. Yep. And so what I realize is that that's a pattern for a lot of us. And if we've stayed in that pattern for a long time, quite honestly, we start developing a soundtrack in our mind that says, oh, that's me. I just never will complete this. I have this stuff that I want to do that I'm never going to get to. And I actually want to just help us to get past that this afternoon. I want to just challenge us on that this afternoon, this evening, because I believe there's a way to go from 50 to 100, right? There's a way to stop operating at just 50% of our potential and really get to 100% to maximize our potential. And one of the ways that we can maximize our potential is to stop being consistently inconsistent, is to get over that hump of whatever it is that's holding us back internally, the stories we tell ourselves, the patterns that we get into, and to move past that. Now, if you have been listening and watching this podcast, you're probably thinking to yourself, Kymone, you haven't podcasted in a while. So how are you talking about getting over being consistently inconsistent? Well, here are some updates for those of you. I actually podcast every day for 49 weeks straight. And then a major thing happened in life and I stopped. I slowed down. But it was never with the intent of being random. It was always to get back on it. And so this episode is a big one for me because I'm getting back on it and I'm also celebrating this milestone. Because here's what I also know. I think we need to celebrate small wins along the way that will help us to get to big wins. I think for some of us, we put our celebrations way too far in advance. And so we start making progress, start doing things that are getting us toward our goal. But we put all of our celebrations so far in advance that we don't get that energy that comes with celebration. We don't get that sense of accomplishment that comes with celebration. We don't get that just that boost that we all need, right, to go to the next goal, to go to the next mile marker, to go to the next milestone that comes with celebration. So something that I've determined for this podcast, for life, for my business, is that I want to be someone that if I have to lean on any side of this, I want to over celebrate rather than under celebrate. I want to celebrate the small wins, and getting to 50 episodes for me is a win. It shows that yes, even though there was a bump, I didn't allow that bump to stop me. I'm moving forward. And so maybe for you, it's to determine what's something that recently that you've accomplished that you should celebrate. That maybe you just overlooked it, maybe you didn't make a big deal out of it, but if you were to just stop and reflect, it's a bigger deal than you've allowed yourself to feel like. Now, yes, there's something else that you need to do. And yes, there are other things that you should have gotten done. And yes, yes, yes. But just for a moment, I want to just challenge you as you're watching this and maybe later on as you're listening to this. What's one thing that you've done lately that you did not stop long enough to celebrate? What's that one thing? Maybe you're moving towards a health goal and you signed up for something that you should have or you needed to that will help you, have you celebrated that? Maybe you're working on getting started with a business and you signed up and you paid for coaching. Celebrate that. Maybe you are working on some projects, some ministry, and you've made some connections and you've put yourself out there and you've called a few people. Whatever it is, celebrate that first step or that next step that's moving you towards your goal. So this is a celebration tonight for the podcast. It's me saying, hey, I'm marking 50 episodes of sharing good content, inspiring people through the stories of the folks that we've shared here on this podcast. And if you've missed some of those stories and you've missed some of the good info, the good news is you can go to our YouTube channel and go back and check it out. Candace says, I didn't celebrate writing and completing a whole book. Yeah. Listen, you wrote a whole book. Do you know that you're in a small percentage of the world that you've written a book? So make sure you do something special to celebrate that, bring people on to be a part of that celebration. Don't overlook that stuff. So please make sure you do that, Candace. Make sure you celebrate doing that. And so if you've missed any episode, make sure you go back. There's stories of people who started nonprofits and are changing the way people are living in certain communities. People who have started ministries to help men, couples, and people with their finances and people with their health. And so, whatever it is, even with food, someone's using food as a ministry and a business idea. So, whatever it is, trust me, if you have an idea, if you're doing something, I guarantee you there's someone you check out the podcast that you can relate to. So, we're talking about how to go from 50 to 100. And let me kind of couch this, right? Yes, 50 episodes. I'm not stopping here. My goal is to get to 100 and to get to 100 even faster than I got to 50. So I have some ideas on that I'll share with you later during this live. I'm going to share with you how we're going to get to 100 episodes faster than we got to 50. But I want to talk about this. This is my 50 to 100, the first step. How do you go from operating at, let's say, 50% of your potential, 50% of what you should be doing, to really maximizing and operating at a much higher level of your potential? And that's what I want to share with you this afternoon, and those of you who are watching it on replay in this episode. How do you get to 100? Now, here are just a few things that I want to share, just maybe 3 or 4 points, and I'm going to put them up on the screen. The first is you got to determine your why. Got to determine your why. If you are going to push past the limits that you put on yourself, if you are going to achieve more than you thought, if you're actually going to get started on that business that you've been talking about or grow the business that you have, if you're actually going to complete that project that you've been working on, you've got to determine your why. Now, for a lot of us, we might think we have our why all together, right? I want to make money, right? Now, making money, nothing's wrong with that. You're not going to get making money slander on this podcast. That's not, you're not going to get that energy here. But your why has to be bigger than making money. Your why has to be bigger than I'm just frustrated with the people that I work with and I want to eventually leave. I think your why has to be tied to people and the difference you want to make in someone's life. I believe that your why has to be personal to you as a person, to others that are looking up to you, others that are looking at you, and people who what you're doing, their lives will be affected by it. I just believe that your why, your motivation, is connected to a who. In fact, I want to say this. All right. I saw this quote. If your why is big enough, the how becomes easy. If your why is big enough, the how becomes easy. So here's a challenge I just want to share with you. If you want to go from 50 to 100, spend some time with yourself, asking yourself, what do I want to do? What are some things that I want to get done? And the things that I've been procrastinating on, stopping and starting on, let me ask myself the question, why do I want to do that? And then ask myself again, why do I want to do that? Like, so let's go down. I said, this is one reason why. Ask why again. And then ask why again based on that answer. And then ask why again. Because you want to really get to the root motivation behind why you're doing it. And once you figure that out, I want you to write it down and revisit it on a daily basis. Write down your motivation and revisit it on a daily basis. Not just, I want to accomplish something. Okay, why? And then why you want to do that. And then why? Keep going, because I believe you're going to get to a root answer that has to do with someone. And if you can identify a someone, a some group, maybe it's even someone who has poured into you, and it's because you want to do something to extend your legacy, but figure that out and keep revisiting it on the good days and on the days when you don't feel like pushing through, on the days when you've had a lot of rejection, on the days when no one's showing up for your live and no one's reading your email and no one's buying your product. Go back to your why, because your why keeps you going. So this is the best why story I can tell. All right. This is the best story that goes along with a why that I can tell. But it's one that's personal to me and one that kept me going during a very difficult situation. So I had the opportunity and I finished a marathon maybe about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. We lived in Memphis, and some friends of mine, we decided we were going to run a marathon. So I ran the Little Rock, Arkansas marathon. My friend Jason Hall, my friend Kenny Culp, we trained together to run 26.2. This wasn't no half or 5K. We ran a full marathon. And so we were training together. We lived in Memphis, went to Arkansas, and after we got there, we stayed in different hotels. So we were supposed to meet at the race to get in there. And so I couldn't find them when it was time for the race to start. We were calling each other, and the race started. And so I'm running, doing something that is challenging by myself. Now, I'm not accustomed training by myself. We train together. So here it is. I'm running by myself. But I didn't come to Little Rock by myself. I came with my wife, came with my kids, and I knew that this was going to be grueling. I knew that this was going to be challenging, even running with them. Now, the way the race was set up, you could get off at the 10-mile mark, you could get off at the half marathon mark, or you could run all the way to the end. Well, I told my wife and kids, you go to the end, wait for me there. And I told my son, I'm gonna meet you at the finish line. And so there were times when I would get a message from him, Dad, I'm at the finish line. I'm gonna meet you there. Dad, I'm at the finish line. I'm gonna meet you there. And here's what it did for me. My reason for finishing that marathon, yes, it was a personal, I wanted to accomplish this goal that I had, but I wanted to teach my children something, that you can start and complete difficult things. You can start and complete challenging things even when you hit obstacles. And so my why was tied to them, and particularly him, my son. And so in the miles that it was challenging and I wanted to quit, I kept thinking about him and the lessons that it would teach him if I were to keep going with this. And so I'm telling you, who is your why tied to? Who is your motivation for starting the business, growing the ministry, whatever it is? Who is it tied to? Whether it's someone you're going to serve, someone who's looking at you for inspiration, someone who's poured into you that you want to make proud of you. Who is your why tied to? All right. Who's your motivation tied to? So that's the first thing. Determine your why. If you want to stop operating at 50 and move to 100, determine your motivation and keep on revisiting it. Somebody just type Y in the comments. WHY. Somebody type Y in the comments. Just type it in the comments if you're watching this live. Candace gives a great analogy. She said, it's like we were Jesus's why when he went to the cross, why he needed to make the sacrifice. This is powerful. Great lesson here, Candace. All right, so type Y in the comments before we get to point number 2, the reason how you go from 50 to 100. How we're going to go from 50 to 100. How to stop just being operating at 50 and let's get to 100. And I want to also remind you, make sure you share this episode and that you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Those of you watching on Facebook, it's going to come down from Facebook. So if you want to watch this again, get on over there to YouTube and make sure you subscribe at Monetize Your Ministry. At Monetize Your Ministry. All right. If you want to go from 50 to 100, determine your why. Here's number 2, develop a time management system. Ooh, this just stepped on someone's toes. Develop a time management system. Yeah, motivation is great. Motivation is awesome. All right. It it provides some energy for you. It can sometimes even get you started. It can even keep you going. But if you really want to get something done and maximize your potential, you need to develop a time management system. So I hear you already, right? You're saying, Kymone, I don't have time. I don't have time to build a business. I'm already busy. I don't have time to grow my business. I don't have time to do all the things that are involved with the marketing and the social media and the blah, 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 blah. All right. Just take a pause on all of the stuff that you see people doing, right? Because let me just say this, some of the stuff that people are doing that you're trying to emulate, they're doing it now in year 10 of their business, when you should be actually figuring out what are the steps that they were doing, what are the things they were doing in year 1 of their business. Because if you're starting and trying to do things in year 1 that they're doing in year 10, you actually might be missing some steps. All right, so just say that, get that out the way, so that you don't feel like you need to be doing, you might putting too many things on yourself right now, like crawl before you walk, right? So anyway, but let's talk about time management. You might say, I don't have a lot of time. And that is possibly true. It's really true for a lot of us. But what are you doing with the time that you do have? So yes, you have a job and a family and other responsibilities. And that is true. And you may not be able to give 40 hours a week to that business idea, to that new venture, to growing your business on your side. But what time can you give to it? If you're going to actually move from 50 to 100 operating at just 50%, what time do you actually have? And so here is my challenge for you. Are you ready for a challenge? I want to give you a challenge. Don't just say you don't have time. Track the time that you have. Yeah, track the time that you have. For the next week, maybe for the next 2 weeks, start something where you're writing down, here's how I'm spending my time. Now, I'm not telling you to do anything different than you're presently doing, right? But if you're going to maximize your potential, you got to give whatever that thing is time. And you're saying, I don't have time. So what I'm challenging you to do is just track your time. If you're going to watch TV for 2 hours, just write it down at the end of the day. If you are going to hang out with friends, and I'm not telling you not to do that, I'm not telling you not to do things that recharge you, but actually write it down. Let's track your time for a week, track it for a couple weeks, and let's actually begin to see where our time is going. Not telling you do anything different yet, but just see where your time is going. Now, once you're done with that exercise, the next step is to actually make a time budget. Ooh, budget. I just said a word that somebody is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is giving me stress. Yes, you need a budget. You need to actually tell your time where to go before it gets here. Tell your week where to go. Tell your next day where to go. And create a budget for the week ahead that actually puts in there some of the blocks that you can work on your business. Now, one of my clients I worked with who was starting a podcast, a single mom, she was super busy, had a very demanding job. She said, I've learned the power of 15 minutes, right? I just love that quote. She said, I learned the power of 15 minutes. She said, I may not have a whole hour, but I learned the power of 15 minutes. Well, here's what I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to actually, one, figure out your best time for work. And for me, it's early in the morning. For me, it is early in the morning. I'm my most creative. My mind is clearest, and it's really free of distraction for me. And so figure out what's your best time for you, and then carve out time then to work on that project that you really want to get done. Figure out your best time. carve out some time to work on the project that you've been talking about. Yes, I want to get that done someday. No, someday will never come. I'm going to do it when the new year rolls around. No, the new year is not going to suddenly give you extra hours in your day. If you're going to get it done and stop operating at 50 to get to 100, you actually have to carve out time now. So maybe start with, after you've done this time tracker in the next week, what are even 1 or 2 days that you can devote an extra hour for that day towards working on your project? It's an hour free from distractions, right? And you know what your distractions are. Maybe your distractions are social media and TV, and you don't touch those things at the times when you're going to work on your stuff. You carve it out. Maybe you take your phone, put it in another room, right? You don't mess with stuff on the internet, but you're focused on working on that project for that time that you've said, right? And so you carve out the time and you are strict on keeping that time. Your time management is really the key to success. The difference between those who are successful and those who don't achieve their goals isn't that they had bigger dreams and bigger goals, is that they just managed their time better. They manage what they were doing with their time better. And so I'm just challenging you. If you can't get 40 hours, can you get 20 hours to work on your business? Can you get 10 hours to work on your business? Can you get 10 hours to work on that project? Can you get 10 hours to work on that book that you want to get done? Can you get 10 hours and then use the hours wisely? All right. So I'm going to give you some categories of things that you should be using your out for your hours, right? You have to have some planning time. So time for thinking, time for reading, time for strategizing, some thinking time, right? Some planning time. Then you got to have some producing time, some time that you're actually working on that product, working on the service, working on whatever it is, right? And also delivering it to people. So if you are a coach, you're actually coaching people with that time. If you're a speaker, you're actually speaking with that time. If you're in a food is your ministry, you're actually making food, right? And then lastly, pitching. So planning, producing, pitching, sharing what you have with someone. You're spending time giving information to others who might be interested in it, and networking and marketing stuff. Now, what I want you to understand is, don't spend all your time on social media looking at how other people are doing and then, oh man, I feel bad about them. No, like some of that pitching can be calling someone and making connections with people who can possibly buy from you, connect you with someone to buy. They can be people you can use for a connection, right? And so use the time that you're going to invest in that project wisely, right? If you're going to stop operating at 50 and get to 100, you got to, let me go back to it just so that we remember. We got to determine our why, and we got to develop a time management system. If you're following along, just let me put a yes in the comments. I just want to know that you are catching this and you want to achieve your full potential. Just put a yes in the comments. You want to stop operating at, I know there's more for me and I feel I can get more done. And you actually want to live this next few months and this year saying, I'm getting stuff done. The thing that I've been putting off and putting off and putting off, I'm finally making progress on it. I'm making moves on it. I'm not making excuses. I'm making moves. I am moving things out of the way. I'm sacrificing, right? Maybe there's some things you need to sacrifice. I'm going to sacrifice this activity to put that time to my business. I'm sacrificing this, whatever might be a thing that I enjoy doing for a time to put it towards getting things off the ground. Because once you start doing it, there's some momentum that comes. So making a sacrifice, and there may be more things you sacrifice at the beginning to get things off the ground. Lenworth says, picking up what you're putting down. What's up, my friend? All right. So I see a few yeses. That means y'all are tracking what we're talking about here. If you want to stop operating at 50 and maximize your potential, right? Discover your why, develop your time management system. And I got one more for you. Number 3, and I might have some bonus stuff. Defeat negative thought patterns. Defeat negative thought patterns. All right. So here's the truth. more projects, more businesses, more things are stopped by doubt than problems and challenges. More things don't get off the ground because of doubt than the challenges and the problems that come our way. I just want to talk to us about the fact that yes, there's doubt. There's doubters, right? There are people in our lives that may have access to us, people that we may talk to about our project and our business and our idea, who will talk us down. And you know who those people are. And here is just a tip. Like, don't share things that you are working on with people who are too critical and doubtful in the beginning stages. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't get a coach, you don't get community, you don't get feedback. Absolutely, but make sure you're getting it from the right people. People who can give you constructive criticism, tell you how you can make it better, help you clarify what you should be doing. Not just people who shoot stuff down. That ain't gonna work. You can't do that. I don't know who you think you are to try that. No, don't just keep telling your stuff to those people, because look at the pattern. You get excited, you're about to take action, they tell you something, you stop, and you keep stopping and stopping and stopping. Well, don't keep falling into that trap, right? So, again, watch who you tell stuff to. I'm not telling you to not get good advice. Don't jump off of this live. Don't jump off of this podcast and say, Kymone told me don't tell nobody nothing and do whatever I want. No, you got to have some good coaching. You got to have some good people who are collaborators to help you build what you're building, right? You got to have some people you can use as a sounding board and give you constructive criticism, not just tell you yes, but tell you, here's how you can make this better. Here's what you're missing. You need that. So, again, but here's what I want to get to. Here's what I want to get to. I want you to understand that a lot of the doubt that we experience and a lot of the doubt that we are challenged with it doesn't come from the outside. A lot of that is from the inside, right? Like, that means if I were left alone with me working on my project, me, Kymone, I will find so many reasons and so many things why it won't work. Why it's not me, it won't work for me. It won't work at all. It won't work at this time, and over and over, I've talked myself out of getting started, making progress, keeping things going with the stuff that I'm working on. And if that's you, you just put something in the comment, put an emoji, put something there to let me know that you can relate to what I'm saying, that you have nurtured doubt, you have talked yourself out, you have you have nurtured negative thought patterns to what you're doing, and you've really told yourself a story why it won't work for you, right? God's not going to bless me with this. People people from like me won't get stuff like this done. And over, we got these stories that we tell ourselves. Well, here's one of the most important things you can do with negative thought patterns. One of the most important things is you can recognize them. You can realize, wait a minute, this isn't true. Now, it's a negative thought pattern. It's something that I have told myself over and over, but it's not true. And here it comes again. Here it comes again. It won't work for me because this idea won't work where I live with the people I work with. Here's one that I hear all the time. My idea, I have an idea to help this group of people, but they don't pay, and they never pay, or they won't pay me. They'll go pay someone else, but they won't pay me. You know I'm talking the truth because you've said it. They don't pay me. They won't pay me, but they'll go pay someone else. And here's my question. Why is that? Why do you believe that's true? Why do you allow that thought pattern to allow to fester in your mind, to grow in your mind, and to make a roadblock between you taking action to get from 50 to 100? So here's what I'm encouraging you to do. Just like we did a time tracker, I want you to do a thought tracker. Begin writing down all of the negative things that you've been telling yourself as to why it won't work for you, why you're not the right person, why now's not the right time, why your target audience won't pay. Write all of that stuff down and just look at it, because those are the negative thought patterns we're going to go after to defeat them. We actually have to call it out, recognize it, and then go after it. So, for every negative thought pattern that is stopping you from achieving your potential and going after what you're supposed to go after, I want you to reframe that and make it a positive statement. I will build a successful business. People are excited to pay me for my services. I will make a difference. And as a person of faith, right? Because monetize your ministry. If you're a person of faith, you got an advantage, right? You have the word of God. And if it's anything that's found in the word of God, there are promises that you can claim to defeat negative thought patterns. In fact, God's word says that we take captive every thought that brings itself up against God. And so what we have the opportunity to do is say, okay, what is this thought? Is this from God? Does it sound like God's word? But what does God's word really say about this thing? I know here's one for me that I've been wrestling with, right? And if you've heard me preach this year, I've talked about this very openly. I wrestled with my faith. It wasn't a wrestling of is God real? That's not it. It wasn't even wrestling with is God who he says he is in his word. That's not it. I was wrestling not even with can God do certain things, right? Can God do big things? My wrestling was would God do it for me? And I actually had told myself, right? This is my negative thought pattern that, yeah, God will bless other people's stuff and other people's whatever, but not mine, right? Just being honest with y'all, just being totally honest, transparent in this episode 50. But what I had to learn is God's word actually speaks about that. Hebrews says, um, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. He that comes to God must believe, here it is, that he is, and he rewards those who diligently seek him. He rewards those who diligently seek him. I'll say it one more time for emphasis. God, here's the promise for Kymone, rewards people who diligently seek him. So, what that meant for me with my business is I don't need to nurture that thought again that says God won't bless me, my business, the works of my hand, the ideas that he's given me, the dreams that he's put in my heart, the things that he's put in my hand, the things that he's asked me to do, the things that I feel impressed to do. I don't need to sit there and keep throwing them away, sitting on them, stopping because I believe God won't bless them. I need to claim the fact that God rewards people like me when I seek him, that he'll reward me. And so I stand on that. And I need to keep reminding myself because I've nurtured the negative thought pattern for so long that it's my default. And maybe you have too. So don't feel like you'll read two scriptures, wake up in the morning and be a positive person. Not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. You have to every day go back to those thoughts, keep looking at how you've reframed them, keep claiming God's word, and know that you might have to actually keep claiming it throughout the day. When you have to make a call, and it's a sales call, and share about your business idea, and that negative thought pattern comes up that says no one's going to pay you for this, then you actually have to claim, I'm going to be the head and not the tail, right? Like that's what God wants for me. Claim that people are excited to pay me for the help that I can give them. You need to begin really reframing that and operating in a positive mindset. Because if you're going to go from 50 to 100, trust me, you're not going to get there beating yourself up, right? You don't get to success. You don't maximize your potential by beating yourself up, putting yourself down, talking down on yourself. You don't get there doing that. Like I think sometimes we listen to the thoughts that we have about ourselves and the way we talk to ourselves. And here is the scary thing. We think that's the way I'm supposed to talk to myself. Secondly, that's the way God feels about me. And that is not the truth. So don't take the energy to beat yourself up. If you didn't get something done, if it didn't work out, don't beat yourself up. Get back to that positive thought and move on, because that's the way we're going to get from 50 to 100. We don't want to stay at 50. We want to get to 100 maximizing our potential, doing the thing that God called us to do. Now, a friend of mine, Dr. Myron Edmonds, he runs a community for men called the Men's Winning Circle. I'm a part of it. I need the community. I'm a man that I want to win in the things that matter. So I'm getting around other men like that, right? That's a hack. If you want to get from 50 to 100, make sure you're getting around people who are trying to go from 50 to 100. Get around people who are trying to do that. But it's something he says in our community, because here we are as men, we're trying to be good husbands and fathers and business people and all that stuff, and health wise. And he says, for the habits that contribute to your success, never miss twice. Or maybe he says, don't miss twice, right? So, Myron, if I'm saying this wrong, I'm just trying to relate what you say, okay? Don't miss twice or never miss twice. And so when I heard that, and when a lot of us heard it the first time, we felt like, okay, I'm exercising. I'm supposed to exercise so many days, and I miss a day. And so that means the next day I got to get it. And that's true, right? Like that is truth to that. Like I want to develop consistency. So if I miss, I'm going to get back on it the next day. I'm not going to stay down and down and down and down. But he said something a few weeks ago on one of our calls, and he talked about he had a bad week in terms of exercise. He was traveling, he was eating, in eating out because he was traveling, whatever. And then he said to us, so this week I'm getting back on it because the mantra is don't miss twice. And here's what he captured by saying that. Don't miss twice isn't just a day-to-day thing, right? We want to get back up the next day and move. But life happens sometimes where I'm down, not just for a day, I'm down for a week. Life might happen where I'm down for a month from the thing I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be getting up and writing, and I was writing, and something happened, and I was not as vigilant with my thoughts or my time or whatever it is, and I stopped. Well, now, you know what can happen is I get to the next month and I start beating myself up. Oh my gosh, I missed the whole month. Oh my gosh, I didn't write for a whole month. I'm so behind. And what I do to myself is I beat myself up, and 1 month turns to 2 months, turns to 3 months, turns to a year, and it keeps going and going. And then I get stuck and I tell myself this story. I can never get this done. And here's how I want to reframe don't miss twice based on what he says. Once I catch myself, I look at how long I've been off, and I tell myself the next time period I'm getting back on. So if I was off for a day and I caught myself, don't miss twice means get back on that day. But if I went a whole week off from my business, I'm supposed to be posting online, supposed to be making client calls, I'm supposed to be recording videos. The next week I say, I'm recording this week. I'm not going to miss 2 weeks in a row. If a month goes by, right, and it happens, right, like we don't want it to happen, but a month goes by, I tell myself, you know what? I had a bad month, but I'm not going to miss 2 months in a row. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get my finances right this month, right? I was off last month. We had a good time. We spent, and it was like, whoa, what happened? But if I'm trying to get financially on the right track this month, I'm not going to miss twice. All right, somebody put don't miss twice in the comments. I want to know that you're here and that you're receiving this because we want to go from 50 to 100. Move beyond just getting by, move beyond just drifting, move beyond just doing whatever is the minimum, and actually maximize our potential, actually do the best we can, actually get to our what we should be doing, right? Like, because I believe that God is honored when you maximize your potential. I believe that God is honored when you do all that you can with what he's put inside of you. I believe, I won't miss twice, Terry says. I believe that there is no virtue in putting down what God's put inside of you. So if God's put something inside of you, I believe he wants you to get the most out of it. Go to 100. And so we said, here are the steps that we've talked about today. The steps we talked about today are determine your why. Said if your why is big enough, you'll figure out the how. Develop a time management system and defeat negative thought patterns. And I mentioned this, never miss twice. All right, I want to share one thing as I wrap up today, right? If you want to go from 50 to 100, here's something you need. You need accountability. What's that word? Accountability. Now, I was training some folks this week and we talked about accountability. And so many times, accountability is a negative word. We feel somebody's in my business, somebody's going to beat up on me if I don't do something right. It's all about when I'm doing something wrong, they're going to, get down on me, and I don't want that energy. No, that's not what accountability is. In fact, for accountability to happen, you have to have a mutually agreed upon goal. You both have to say, this is the goal that I'm working on. And now hold me accountable, right? Let's track and measure. Let's set some guidelines. And if we don't hit the goal, let's look at, some consequences, positive consequences if we do, negative consequences if we don't. And some of those negative consequences, like, might be starting back over again, resetting the goal. So here's a story. Accountability hack. If you want to go from 50 to 100, right? And it also goes with something I've been working on. So this is project that I wrote about that I wanted to get done in 2023, right? 2023. It's a project to help people, just like this podcast, who want to monetize your ministry. You want to take how they serve others best and increase your income and their impact. And I was working with someone and we laid out all the steps in the project. And just like you, right? If you think I'm talking to you as a sage and I got it all together, here's the truth. I struggle with consistency. I struggle with procrastination. I struggle with negative thought patterns, right? I struggle with time management. I struggle with all that stuff. So I'm talking to you as a fellow struggler. Hi, I'm Kymone, and I'm struggling getting from 50 to 100. But we laid it all out, and then it's kind of like fell off, whatever. Beginning of this year, started working on it again. And here's the good news. When I started working on it again, I thought I was going to have to start all over. And here's the good news for you. If you ever have to start over, you're not starting over from zero. You're starting over with something. And I realized I had more of the thing than I thought I did. So anyway, I said to a friend of mine, I'm going to call him out because I just want to thank him. His name is Seth Yalorder. Seth Yalorder. He is a leadership coach. He helps people get clarity on their life. He's the vision clarity guy. So Seth Yalorder. I said, hey, Seth, I need you to hold me accountable to get this project done. So Seth says, when do you want to get it done? So I gave Seth a date, right? I said, Seth, I want to get this done by April 15th. So I said, can you hold me accountable? He said, okay, great. We got a goal. We have a time frame. It's very specific, right? It's measurable. He said, how will I know when you get it done? I said, I'm going to send you this. I'm going to send you that. All right. Anybody else need some accountability? Just put accountability in the chat, right? Put the word accountability in the chat. So here's what Seth asked me next. So what does accountability look like in this situation? So I told him what I thought. I said, hey, Seth, just, I'm going to text you. I'm going to let you know how it's going. And if you don't see me texting you, text me back, call me when we talk, because we talk regularly. Ask me how it's going, right? I thought that sounded good. Seth said, nah, bro, we got to do more than that. I was like, all right, what are you thinking about, right? Like, if you don't like my idea of accountability, what's your idea of accountability, right? We're talking about how to go from 50 to 100, how to achieve things that you've been putting off, how to maximize your potential. Here's what Seth said to me. All right, let's do this. You set the goal. You said you want to get it done. So I need you to send me money. Send me some money. And I'm going to hold on to it. And if you get it done, I give you back your money. If you don't get it done, I hold on to the money. All right. I'm not going to tell y'all on here what the money is. If you DM me, if you message me, if you DM me on Instagram, if you message me on Facebook, I'll tell you. If you message me on YouTube, I'll tell you, right? So if you ask me, I'll tell you. I'm not going to put it out here. But it was a sizable amount of money, right? One of those amounts of money make you like sit up a little bit when you hear it. I said, all right, bro, I can't do that, but I'm going to do half of it. And so that night, I sent him the money. And I'm just going to be honest with y'all. That thing messed with me on my sleep that night. And the next morning, I set an alarm, 5 o'clock in the morning. I also made some adjustments on my phone for my social media limits. So I put some limits. So I would cut it off. Like I couldn't be on beyond this time. I looked at all the websites like my ESPN that I would be on at times. I cut those down. And I woke up and spent the time from 5 to I think 7 or 8 that morning working on it, working on it. Why? Because there were some stakes attached to it, right? Like I tapped into a deeper motivation. I need my money back, right? And here's what I'm saying to you. Now, don't send me money. I'm not asking you to send me money. But what I'm saying to you is make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you have no accountability, or that accountability is not one that is actually strong enough to move you past that first hurdle, move you over that first obstacle, right? You need sometimes something, right? And maybe that's someone to set a goal with and to hold you to it and to put some skin in the game. Something that happens if you don't get it done that you care about, and something that happens good for you that does happen if you get it done, right? I don't know. So I said this, those sentences kind of came across weird. But here's my point. Make sure you set up an accountability system. If you want to go from 50 to 100 and to go past some of the things that are stopping you, actually get someone to hold you accountable. Join a community, join a program, get a coach, get someone that you invest with, right? Investing your time, investing maybe even your money, so that they can help you to push past what's been holding you. All right. So that's what we've talked about today, how to go from 50 to 100. And if you are watching this, share this episode, hit the share button, share it with someone, copy the link. If you're on YouTube, share it with someone, let them know, check it out. And if this is the first time you're watching the podcast, you're watching this on maybe Facebook, you're watching this on Instagram, I'm doing something special because it's episode number 50. Do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube at Monetize Your Ministry. All right, I'm going to hang around just for a couple of minutes. So any questions, any thoughts? We're talking about how to go from 50 to 100. And maybe you've been operating at 50, right? You're doing well. And even the people you work with and the people who are around you and the people who care about you, they may be patting you on your back saying you're killing it. But you know the truth. You're not giving your 100, right? Yes, you're leading. You're the person on the job that people come to. But there is something God has placed on the inside of you, something that you know you're supposed to be doing, and you're not doing it. And what I'm saying to you is you got to get to that 100. So make your why bigger. Develop a motivation that goes beyond just money, goes beyond just accolades, who it is that really is depending on you, right? Then you develop a time management system, whatever it is that you need to get done. And for a lot of people I'm talking to on here, I want to just be clear. I want to encourage you to start something of your own that may be a stream of income for you and a way to increase impact. Even if you have a job, have something of your own, and you cannot grow anything of your own that you do not put some time into. So develop some time and block it out and treat it as sacred, right? If someone says, hey, can you do this? No, my calendar, my schedule will not allow it, right? My schedule will not allow it. I've got some other meeting on there. That meeting is with me to work on the thing that I'm really passionate about. And number 3, defeat negative thought patterns. Identify them and come against them. All right. Listen, y'all, it has been great hanging out with you for episode 50. Now, I told you in the beginning, I want to get from 50 to 100 faster than I got to 50. So what am I going to do? So sharing, just go ahead and type it if you have questions. But what am I going to do to get there faster? We're still going to do interviews. We're still going to share interviews to tell stories, because I love the stories that I get a chance to tell. I love stories like Rhonda Sawyer-Fat, Dr. Rhonda Sawyer-Fat with the Mariah Group. I love telling her story and what she's done and she's impacting and how that's grown. I love telling Cherie's story, Sherry's story, right? Sherry Loveday's story, one of the last episodes that I did, episode 49. I love telling stories of like the couple, John and April Nixon, people who have figured out, here's what God's given me. Here's how my story intersects with my skills, intersects with my spiritual gifts. And here's the business that I'm building, the income that I'm generating by using my ministry. I love telling those stories. I'm going to keep doing those. And I'm also going to do more solo episodes like the one you're watching right now. Do more of those where I actually share on topics of inspiration and I'm going to share on topics of instruction. So I'm going to do some how to do this, right? How to plan an event for your business, how to do this. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm not actually going to figure out all the things I want to talk about. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you if you're on my email list by emails. Hey, what are some questions you have? I'm going to ask you if we're connected on social media. What are some questions you have? Because I believe it's more important for me to answer what you actually have as a question than to just make it up. So look out for more episodes that are interviews and then episodes that are individual episodes. And who knows, I might find some creative ways to do some of these. And maybe if I come to a city near you, we'll do a live episode with an audience and you can ask questions and stuff or get live coaching. But I'm looking forward to going from episode 50 to episode 100. And who knows, maybe we'll do something really, really special, some giveaway. We'll give away some prize or something when we get to episode 100. All right, listen, share the episode. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you are someone that next time we do this podcast, you can find it on YouTube and go watch the other 49 episodes. If you're new, go watch the other 49 episodes, right? You got all weekend, binge watch it. Just keep going, watch, subscribe if you're a podcast listener. I just want to encourage you to take what God has given you and move it out into the marketplace, because someone needs what you have. Someone needs the inspiration that you have. Someone needs to hear your story. And so let's go monetize our ministry.
Thank you for listening to the Monetize Your Ministry podcast with Kymone Hinds. For more information, visit our website at www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. That's www.monetizeyourministrypodcast.com. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please share this episode with someone who needs it. Let's increase our income and impact.